and introduce yourselves.
Just so you know, I hit record.
Brian, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself
Sure.
since you're on?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Brian. I'm one of the assistant principals.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Stahl. I'm the other assistant principal.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Aaron Junkus. I'm the athletic director.
Great, thank you. And hopefully everybody has received enough correspondence to know that we're going to record this. We're starting with athletics. It will be recorded. We will share it out. And we're also going to take some questions as well. Maybe we'll take a few for athletics when Aaron's done and then move on to the other portion of the presentation. Brian, do you want to just talk about how folks can ask a question?
Yeah, sure. So in your screen, there's two options. The easiest way for us is using the Q&A feature because that allows us to keep track of whether we answered those questions or not. You could also send us a chat, but if you we prefer the Q&A feature just because that makes it's easier for us to track.
Thank you, Brian. And so Aaron Junkus, the athletic director, is going to be kicking this the event off. And so just one thing I think is important to note that this presentation is meant to reduce any potential anxiety and not cause any. And this is really to just get you some information before the end of school, but there will be plenty of information shared. So this is not a one and done option. So without further ado, Aaron, do you want us to talk about athletics, please?
Sure. And I'd start by just echoing that sentiment. I'm going to just cover the fall season logistics right now because we'll have another opportunity prior to the winter and spring seasons with the advent of this technology this year to conduct another parent webinar. I'll also host another one prior to the beginning of the fall season. So, feel free to chime in with questions in the Q&A while I'm presenting, but I'm going to try to limit myself to about 25 minutes or so tonight because there's a lot to cover overall. Okay. And just let me share my screen here. Okay.
I give her the address, honey.
Great. Okay. So as I said, I'm going to go over the fall program primarily tonight, but I do want to start with some information about our athletic program in general, which applies throughout the year. So our emphasis at the high school for athletics is really that it's educational in nature. We treat the fields, the gym, the rink, the pool, and all of our athletic spaces as extensions of the classroom. And the goal, certainly at the varsity level, is to field competitive teams and compete for state championships. But equally, if not more importantly, we're really using the athletic program as a tool to allow student athletes the opportunity for character building, personal development. So many of us as coaches and administrators who are involved in team sports think back to the life lessons that we learned during athletics and can come up with those values like responsibility, teamwork, leadership, sportsmanship, learning how to handle failure and disappointment, learning how to win with grace. Our coaching staff is comprised of both educators in our district, in the K-12 district, and those who are not teachers in our district are veteran coaches who really strive to develop good, positive relationships with the kids so that our student athletes have trusted adults in which they can confide and on whom they can depend. And we're really trying to model positive peer relationships for our students as well. So as we head into the fall season, these are our offerings, and I'm going to talk a little bit just briefly about each program and the levels that we have. And I'll start with our boys and girls cross country teams. Those are two separate teams by gender. And the cross country teams are varsity only teams, which means that we do not make cuts. However, with the varsity distinction, that means that the commitment is a little bit more significant. So that team will usually practice 5 days a week after school and then have a Saturday morning practice as well. The girls team is hosting an informational Zoom on Monday at 6:30. So I put the link right here in the presentation. So that'll be available for you if you're interested. Field hockey has 3 levels: varsity, JV, and the 9th grade teams. We try to keep all of our 9th grade players in the program. At times, we do have to make cuts for the JV level. Our golf team is a varsity-only team. That is a co-ed opportunity. And we do have to make cuts on the golf team, unfortunately. Just the size of the roster there is pretty small. And we just have the 1 level. Boys and girls soccer, we have 3 levels each. The boys usually have a traditional 9th grade team, whereas the girls have a JVA and JVB. So the JVA is going to be made up mostly of 9th and 10th graders, maybe with a little more experience and skill. And then the JVB will also be primarily 9th and 10th graders who may not be as experienced. The cuts, we typically have to make some cuts on the boys' side. It depends on the number of players who show up to try out. But living in this community, you probably all know that soccer is a very popular sport. We usually have maybe 15 more boys than girls that try out. So some years we're able to keep everybody in the girls program, and some years we have to make a few cuts. So we offer girls volleyball in the fall. We have 3 levels for that program as well. Again, cuts there depend on the number of players. Sometimes at the JV level, we usually try to keep all of our 9th graders. We have a competitive cheerleading team that also participates at the football games on Friday nights. And that's a varsity-only team that competes. Sometimes there can be 2 teams within the cheerleading program. We have sort of a competition team that goes against other schools and competes at cheerleading meets. And then we have a performance team that practices during the week and participates at the football games on Fridays. This year in the fall, we are starting a unified basketball program. We haven't hired a coach for that yet, but Unified Sports joins students with and without intellectual disabilities on the same team. The commitment for that program is typically 2 times per week. We'll play about 4 to 6 games against other schools. This spring, we started a unified track team, and that was our first foray into unified sports. And the kids really enjoyed themselves. It was a good experience for everybody that was involved. There's a link here at the bottom. Arbiter Live is the software program that we're going to be using in the fall for all of your team schedules. That's different if any of you are parents for the 2nd time around or 3rd time around. Our current website that we use for scheduling is going to go away over the summer. So you'll want to make sure that you click on that link and bookmark it on your phone or on your laptop at home. And all of our team schedules for games and competitions will be listed there. This is a listing of our fall varsity coaching staff. And if you, their email addresses here as well. So if you've got particular programs about, say, our field hockey program or the boys soccer program, our varsity coaches really serve as kind of program managers. So while they may not be coaching the 9th grade team or the JV team, they're certainly working and collaborating with our coaches at those levels, and they know the student athletes in the program. So if you have questions about one of the programs in general, I think your best bet is to start off with the varsity coach. And then once the season starts, again, the link at the bottom here, it links over to our school website, and I have listings of each team and each level and the coaching staff for those and their email addresses. And some programs also have their own program websites, and those are listed there as well. So if you're a student athlete or the parent of a student athlete and you decide, okay, I want to play, what's next? There really are 3 steps. So first thing that families have to do is register their student athlete on Family ID. And you should do that with your child together. The registration takes, basic biographical information and so forth, but there are some state association and school policies that you'll want to review there with your child. So, that can just take about 15, 20 minutes or so. We do have a user fee of $300 per season per child with a $900 family cap for the school year. Students are never prohibited from participating based on financial needs. So if there's any hardship at all, any extenuating circumstances, please reach out to me via email, and we always work something out, and all requests are kept completely confidential. So please make sure to take note of that. Massachusetts state law requires that all students have physical exams on file with the school, and they must have been conducted within 13 months of the date to be valid. So if your child's last physical exam or upcoming physical exam is on September 1st of 2021, that exam expires on October 1st of 2022. And we're really strict with that policy. As I said, it is a state law. And just so you know, physical exams must be completed in person. So we had some students over the last year who had their physicals done virtually, and our school nurse and school policy dictate that physical exams must be done in person. The third component for registration is to complete the impact test. Impact testing is used to establish a baseline for each student so that if there is a head injury or potential concussion, we can work with your child's pediatrician and our school nurse to return students to school and athletics safely. So it is required that students take the impact test prior to participating in any tryout or preseason opportunity. You can take the test, students can take the test at home. There's a link at the bottom here to a letter which has our test code. The test takes about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. We do ask that while completing the test and setting that up, that you fill in all the concussion history information. Unfortunately, impact doesn't require it, but it's really helpful for us to have as a department and with our athletic trainer and the school nurse. I'm just toggling back and forth. Oh, question on football. Sorry, let me back up a little bit.
Yeah, Aaron, sorry to cut you off. I'm happy to answer the questions and then just notify you of the ones that are kind of hanging if you want.
Okay, it seems that I left football off of this list, which is just a mistake on my part. This presentation I used for the fall this season, and as many of you know, football got moved to February. So football also has 3 levels. So we typically have a varsity, a junior varsity, and a 9th grade team. And we don't make any cuts in football. So there is room for everybody who would like to play on the football team. So I'll update the slides there. Sorry about that mistake on my part. So the preseason starts prior to the first day of school. So that's a really important note, especially for incoming families. Football starts first on August 20th, which is a Friday. All other sports start on August 23rd, except for 9th grade volleyball. So the 9th grade volleyball tryouts are on the first day of school. For volleyball, if you are a 10th through 12th grader or a 9th grader with some club experience and an expectation that you could play on the JV or varsity, you should come on August 23rd. The preseason schedule, there's a link to it here. It's also posted on the CCHS website under the athletics page on the side menu there, so you can take a look at the preseason schedule. Some programs will have 2 sessions during the first couple of days of preseason. So there may be some fitness testing, for example, that happens in the morning, and then a tryout session on the field or in the gym in the afternoon. So just be prepared for that, please. And again, the emphasis is really on the educational component of high school athletics. But if you think about classroom curriculum, your classroom lessons and so forth are your opportunities to learn the information. And then when you take a test or complete an assessment, that's sort of gauging what you've learned and how well you can express what you know. For athletics, your daily practice, team meetings, those are the classroom lessons, the curriculum, so to speak. And then the games and competitions are really like the assessments or the tests. So our expectation is that student athletes are going to attend all team commitments unless there's a real extenuating circumstance. Now, I say that, I guess, to just provide some clarity about the commitment. Certainly at the ninth grade level, the beauty of having a ninth grade team is that there's an opportunity for students and families to start to understand what the expectations are like. So if we've got a ninth grader who says to a coach, I've got to leave practice a half an hour early because I've got this commitment this week and it's a one-time thing and I just can't get out of it. The coaches are going to certainly work with student athletes and families to make adjustments. I think as students progress through the program and start to compete on our junior varsity or varsity teams, the expectation is that appointments or conflicts are going to try to be set outside of the parameters of the practice and game commitments. And our coaches are expected to have preseason meetings with their teams and parents to lay out the expectations, lay out the schedules so that folks know well in advance and can plan. But I just do want to put that out there that it's a little bit different than, say, a town travel team where you can't go to practice one day a week because you've got piano lessons, kind of thing. At the high school athletic level, you sort of have to make a decision about, okay, if I'm going to commit to a season, to a team for the season, then that's going to be my commitment as much as possible. And in terms of opportunities to play, I think again in the ninth grade and JV levels or JVA and JVB, the expectation is that coaches are going to give everybody an opportunity to play. It may not always be exactly equal playing time, but there is an opportunity for everyone to participate and play. But again, as the level gets as you get a bit more competitive through the levels and progress up to the varsity, playing time is based on merit and is determined by coaches. And there are a number of different factors that go into that. So something for most ninth grade students that they don't have to worry about until a few years from now anyways. We do have we're very fortunate. We've got a full-time athletic trainer on staff. We are in the process of finalizing our hiring of a new athletic trainer that will start prior to the season in the school year next year. The athletic trainer is a healthcare professional, and the primary responsibility is the safety of all of our student athletes. The athletic trainer is available to see students during school, Monday through Friday, starting at 11 a.m. So if you're a student who's got an injury that's requiring some rehab or requiring regular icing or heat or stretching, you're going to be able to come in during your lunch block and do 15, 20 minutes of treatment during the day. So that's a real bonus for us. The athletic trainer is going to do things like rehab, evaluations, work with families on referrals. They're certainly going to be involved in the event of any concussion or head injury. But I think that as the healthcare professional for the athletic department, our athletic trainer is also going to be somebody who's going to provide education on a variety of topics. Nutrition, stretching, hydration especially has been important in the last week or so with the heat that we've had. Strength and conditioning, awareness around substance use with vaping or alcohol or any drugs or tobacco. So it's really a resource that we have that contributes pretty significantly to our program. When we do finalize our hiring for the athletic trainer, I will make sure that we publicize that. I do use Twitter and Instagram fairly frequently, and it's at CCPatsAD. And I'll just ask Mr. Miller to add that to the list of slides with the administration's tags on them as well. For transportation, again, just trying to get through some of the nuts and bolts for everybody. The school bus transportation is provided for every away competition, and it is required that students ride the bus to all away competitions. Parents are welcome to pick students up at away games and drive them home. We simply ask that you send me and the student's coach an email a day in advance for permission. 99.9% of the time, I'm going to say okay. The real reason we ask for the note in advance is for attendance tracking. So especially on a roster like our cross-country teams where there are 60 to 65, 70 students, our coaches need to know in advance who's coming home on the bus and who might be heading home with parents. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna pause my screen share here for a second. I think I'm actually a couple of minutes ahead of time. One of the questions I see here are some of the clubs scheduled around the sports and practice game schedules. So we try to push practices off in the fall and the spring so that they're not starting until 3:15, in summer as late as 3:30. And with dismissal at 2:41, that gives students an opportunity to see a teacher for extra help after school, maybe check in with the club. I think that the clubs meet at such a variety of times that it's difficult to make a kind of one size fits all statement about clubs and athletic practices. So there is, like I said, that window of time there when the school day ends that students have an opportunity to do some things before they head out to practice. But there could be conflicts that exist also. Let's just wait a minute and see if there are any other questions.
Well, we do have 102 participants, so if anyone who just logged on, we are recording, we will share it. But if you have any questions related to athletics, this would be a great time to ask.
I would just add one piece around the question around registration fees being refunded. There is an option to delay the payment. So when you complete the registration, you can submit the registration on Family ID without submitting a payment. So the payment is not required to try out. So if your child is trying out for a program where cuts are made and you're uncertain about whether or not they're going to make a team, you can wait until the cuts are announced. And then after the team rosters are chosen, you could send a check or log back into Family ID and pay. So if you'd prefer to do that instead of having to worry about a refund, that's perfectly fine.
Aaron, there's a question in the chat for you. Our practices every day.
So I would say that for boys and girls cross country, practices are Monday through Friday and Saturday morning. Volleyball for 9th grade is Monday through Friday. 9th grade football oftentimes is Monday through Thursday, because oftentimes our freshman football games are on Thursdays, and so they won't have a weekend commitment. There are some schools that play their 9th grade football games on Saturdays, so there may be a week or two during the football season where we practiced for the 9th grade Monday through Friday and then compete on a Saturday. I would say the general rule for 9th grade teams and most JV teams are practices daily, Monday through Friday, and no weekend commitments. The only time we really have weekend commitments is if there is a non-league game, for example, or if poor weather forces us to move something to an occasional weekend.
And there's a question. Do you see that in the Q&A about cross country? I can read it to you if you need me to.
That's okay. I was just in the chat here. I don't see the question about.
Okay, so it just says, there were 3 levels of cross-country prior to
Look
COVID.
at 3 levels of COVID, of cross country rather. No, there were not. There's always, there have always just been 1 level. So the cross country teams, and this is the same in the winter for our indoor and outdoor track teams. There's the team is a varsity level commitment. There are times when during a cross country race, if the other school has as many runners as we do, for example, we may be able to run a second race, which we typically call the JV race. But the culture of the sport with cross country is such that schools just have a varsity team, and that sort of is a one size fits all, and that's always been the case. Games for boys soccer are typically 2 times a week. That's the same for field hockey, soccer, volleyball. Always 2 times per week. Football plays 1 time per week. Cross country meets are usually 1 time per week. There is also a late bus for Concord, Carlisle, and there's a Boston late bus as well.
The one thing I would mention about the late bus is that sometimes an away game doesn't always work out, right, Aaron?
Yes, that's right. So especially what we've noticed is that, like us in the past couple of years, many schools in our league are going to a later start time in the morning. And the effect that that's having is that it's pushing our start times for games back a little bit later in the afternoon. So where we used to be able to start some games at 3:45 or 4 o'clock, are starting as late sometimes as 4:30 now. So if we've got an away game in, say, Westford at 4:30, students aren't going to make it back in time for the 5:45 or 6 o'clock late bus. They'll need to get picked up at school.
All right, well, we have about 2 more minutes, so let's see if anything else comes in.
How much time is cheerleading a week?
Cheerleading typically practices each day, Monday through Friday. They don't have a lot of weekend commitments. The only time that there's typically a weekend commitment for cheerleading is in the week or 2 prior to the league competition. So they'll usually come in on a Saturday or a Sunday during that weekend beforehand. Girls soccer, a question about girls soccer there. Again, the norm is that the 9th grade teams typically do not have weekend commitments.
And Aaron, while we have another minute, do you want to say anything about the bona fide rule or just?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So one other thing that I think is important for everyone to know, the MIAA is the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association, and that's the governing body for all member schools. And we are certainly, involved there. We're a member of the association. So there are 3 important rules, and I was going to go over these in more detail when we got to the fall presentation. But the chemical health rule deals with drugs and alcohol use and possession, and that's in our school handbook. It's pretty straightforward. The bona fide team member rule is a little bit more nuanced. So I'll lay it out here for you. What it basically says is that your participation on the high school athletic team, because it's considered to be part of your educational experience, is the primary responsibility for the student athlete during the season. So if I am a fall boys cross country runner, my commitment to the school takes precedence over outside activities. So if I also play on an AAU basketball team in the fall, for example, the bona fide team member rule says that I cannot miss a high school cross country practice or race in order to attend a sport outside of school. So I can't say to my cross country coach, hey, I have to leave early today from practice because I've got to get to my AAU practice, or I can't come to the race on Saturday because I have an AAU tournament. So that's called the bona fide team member rule, and a violation of that rule results in a 25% suspension for the student athlete in that season. So we have a preseason meeting for all of our student athletes. We go over those rules as well. But if you have any questions about that, if you're a family of a student who participates in sports outside of school, please just email me. I'd be happy to share some details with you.
Okay, so then just two quick ones. Can you just speak to practices and games for volleyball, and then I'll answer the one on the academic conflict.
Yeah, volleyball, ninth grade volleyball practices just Monday through Friday after school. Matches are typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
And then the next question is, what if there is an academic conflict with the MIAA rule? So the MIAA rule would not govern this. So an academic conflict, you know, we are an academic institution, but prioritizes, education. And so, it's really hard to get into too many details about what this, potential conflict might be. And that we, in general, we ask that kids should be taking their academic responsibilities serious and first. That's not to suggest, however, if someone's missing multiple practices for any reason, that there might be not necessarily a consequence, but it might impact one's playing time, for example. But by and large, the focus should be academics, and all sports are the same user fee. All right. Well, I think Aaron, you nailed the time. We really appreciate it.
I've got one more comment for athletics. Just those who missed it, please pay attention that athletics start before school starts. Right.
Yes.
If there's one thing that Aaron mentioned it, but if there's one thing that I've learned that's a surprise to ninth grade families is that maybe they have a vacation scheduled that sort of last week in August, and that is when tryouts are. So please make sure that we'll post this presentation, but make sure you take a look at that and the info that Aaron is going to share, because that is probably the most common misstep for ninth grade athletes.
Thank you for highlighting that. August 20th for football, August 23rd for all other sports.
I mean, and it goes without saying, but it's worthy to note that, just the benefits of participating, not only the very obvious ones about physical activity, but really just social connections cannot be understated how crucial it is to a high school experience. And, you don't have to be the best runner or the best tennis player, or even, especially for younger kids, or even ever tried the sport. We encourage you to participate, and think that every student athlete does make the track team. Correct, Aaron?
Every student there are no cuts for cross country or indoor outdoor track.
Yep. And so we just encourage kids to participate. And there are cases certainly where a student does get cut from a team, and then we'll gravitate towards a non-cut sport, and we welcome that. All right. So Aaron, thanks again for your help. If anyone has additional questions, they can certainly write you. And you're free to go, sir. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Aaron.
Hey, Aaron.
All right. Well, we're going to do our intros again. So sorry for folks that heard it the first time, but with athletic presentation ending and the next portion of the program beginning, we're going to start with some introductions, and we do have two new folks with us. I'll ask them to introduce themselves too. But I'm Mike Mastrullo, and I'm the principal at the high school. Katie?
Hi there. I'm Katie Stahl. I'm one of the assistant principals.
Brian?
Hey, everybody. Brian Miller, the other assistant principal.
Allison, are you with us?
Yeah, I'd love to start my video, but I don't have the ability to do so. Brian, you might have to actually help me.
Give it a go now.
There we go. Hi, everyone. I am Allison Nowicki. I'm the chair of the Guidance and Counseling Department.
And Aaron?
Hi, I'm Erin Pino, and I'm the chair of the Special Ed Department.
Great, thank you. And thanks to everybody for joining. And I just want to remind everybody, if you didn't hear it at the beginning, we are recording this presentation. And I just want to say what I said at the outset of the last one, that this presentation is meant to alleviate any anxiety. It's not going to be an exhaustive list of everything you need to know, but it should give you enough information to at least alleviate any anxiety you might have. In addition to that, this is not going to be the only opportunity to ask questions or to get information. We'll share a lot more information, but at least want to give you a basic overview of what you can expect for the ninth grade year. Okay, and we will also share out this slide deck as well. Brian, do you just want to talk about how folks can ask a question?
Yeah, sure. So the easiest way for us, if you ask a question, is using the Q&A feature. That allows us to make sure and keep track that we answered them all. We do have a chat open that you can chat to all the panelists, but all of us can also see the Q&A. So that is really the best. If you're able to use that Q&A, please do so, and we'll make sure we can answer your question.
Great, thank you, Brian. Oh, I'm gonna go back. Yeah, without Brian and Katie, perhaps we can just help manage the chat and Q&A while others are presenting. Okay.
Sounds
Yeah.
great.
We will.
First slide is just a shameless plug. You know, we communicate in multiple ways, and social media is one of them. And so we would welcome you to subscribe, or subscribe is probably not the proper term. But what is the proper term, Katie? You're the expert.
I think Brian's the expert, but I would say follow.
Follow. Thank you.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course your blog, Mike.
Thank you very much. And so we had some introductions. Dr. Hunter is not with us tonight, but certainly can't make every event, but she is looking forward to welcome all ninth graders. So it's class of 21. We just graduated on the 5th, very hot, but a great ceremony. And the reason why I show this is, you know, it's very cliche, but these 4 years are going to go very quickly. I am the father of a ninth grader who is now a rising 10th grader. I cannot believe how quickly this year has gone. All the days seem very long, but the year, you know, has passed quickly. And these 4 years are going to go very quickly. The ceremony was fantastic. It was the first time we were allowed to gather in large numbers outside, unmasked, if vaccinated. And, you know, we had roughly 2,500 people, and it was a great event. And the class of 21 endured quite a bit, and they, you know, they were outstanding throughout the process. And, you know, the students are what get us out of bed every day. And just this class has been outstanding. It's a great group. So the goals for tonight is just to assist and support you and your student for CCHS this fall, and provide helpful links, names, contacts, and resources. And also just learn what to do and when. And I'm sorry that I'm reading these slides. I hate when people do that, but I think it's just the best course of action in this format. But learn where your student should be and when, deadlines, logistics, how to access important information, and learn about club sports and music offerings. You did hear about sports and a little bit about clubs a few minutes ago. Also, you're going to learn how we communicate. We did share a little bit already, but we'll share a little more. And just talk about some of the unique features about CCHS, the engineering certificates, Key 5, travel opportunities, and then community service. We'll also talk a little bit about summer work. There's not much. And then how to get involved. But most importantly, we hope that you will also learn that we care about your child as a person and as an individual. And it's really important that we state that we have roughly 1,300 students, 1,284 this year. And we recognize that each one of them is unique, and we care about each and every one of them, want them to have a great experience at CCHS. But the bigger picture is not just about content, skills, college, MCAS, AP, finals. Those are important, of course. We are an academic institution, but really we want them to enjoy this journey of high school. And you know, we say this quite a bit. But we want them to enjoy high school for the experience itself, and not just as a stepping stone for what's next. The vast majority of our students are going to go off to college. There'll be a small portion of the military, or just directly into the workforce, or a gap year. But nevertheless, we want these 4 years to be memorable. They're not going to be easy every day, but we want them to enjoy it. The transition to ninth grade is a very big transition. And anytime a student is transitioning from one school to another, particularly in ninth grade, it's a big transition, and it's really crucial transition. And you're going to hear a little bit about our ninth grade academy, which really is aimed at addressing this. The research does say that onboarding to ninth grade is crucial to a successful high school experience. It doesn't mean if ninth grade is a challenging year that we cannot enjoy success for the remainder of high school. However, we know that getting assimilated into high school with all new friends, with all new students, making new friends, new opportunities, growing up, it's a big year, and we want to very thoughtfully onboard students during their ninth grade year. And so, as I alluded to, it is a very big change, and we do want them to enjoy this time. So we do have some core values and outcomes, some learning expectations that really underscore, everything that we do. I'm not going to read this to you. I would invite you to read it as I talk over it. Really, when we're looking at difficult decisions, we want to decide, okay, is it consistent with our core values? And is it good for kids? And so this is really, it's not just a document that survives on a wall or in Drive. This is something that we believe deeply in as an academic institution, as an educational institution. And we do have learning outcomes. We want to create independent learners, complex thinkers, good communicators, collaborators, and responsible citizens. And so we know that we are, yes, our primary goal is to educate students, but we're talking about educating the whole child, and not just academic disciplines and content and skills. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Brian and Katie to take up the next portion of the presentation.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mastrullo. Can you go to the next slide?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Hold on. There we go.
Okay, so some important dates. Mr. Miller and I are going to go through some logistics, but don't worry, this will be shared, so you will be able to get access to all of the links and information and dates that we're going to talk about. So the first important date for your child is Friday, August 27th. That is our ninth grade orientation. Mr. Miller is going to talk about that in a couple minutes, so I won't go too much into that, but it's a very important day for your students to come and do some community building and get to know some upperclassmen. It's a really great day. Back to school night is Thursday, September 9th. So fingers crossed, hopefully that will be in person. I don't know for sure at the moment, but if it's not, we had a fantastic one this year where we did it over Zoom, but you will be able to participate in a presentation for just ninth grade parents at 6 p.m. that evening. And then at 7 o'clock, it's all school, and you will get to meet your child's teachers and follow their schedule. So this is a link to our calendar. We have a lot of really important dates and schedules and everything you could find on our website. And the calendar feature is a very important one to get to know. So as you can see, there's an arrow to the little icon for the calendar. For school attendance, Kathy Murray is one of our administrative assistants who really does our attendance, as well as Martha Hammer, who's one of our main office administrative assistants. If your child is going to be out of school or late for school or needs an early dismissal, we ask that you call or email these ladies as soon as you know and as soon as possible, so that they can accurately reflect that in our attendance system in Aspen. So also, for unexcused absences, if some reason your child gets marked absent, they are the people that you want to reach out to. Mr. Miller is going to talk about the back to school packet. So I'll hand it over, or no, what's happening? Health office. Okay.
My apologies. It jumped. It didn't work when I hit it, and then it just skipped 3. My apologies.
That's totally fine. So some of the real MVPs of this school year at CCHS have been our school nurses, Lisa and Carrie Ann. They are our full-time nurses at CCHS, and you can talk to them about all things related to your child's health, any, EpiPens, inhalers, any things that they need to know about. They are the women that you will be speaking to, and you can submit all of your health forms to them. They also have their own page on the website, the health office page.
One just quick thing I'd just like to note, that we are adding a third nurse to the school, based on the number of students and just the demands of the job, that we've added a third nurse. They're in the process of hiring. And if you attended the presentation previously, we're in the process of hiring a new athletic trainer as well.
Okay, so food services. Bryce McKnight is our Director of Food Services for CCHS. We have really, really great healthy food options at the school. This year, we've done more of a grab and go type lunch offering for students, which will continue next year. But the food's great. The kids really have enjoyed it, as well as the adults. I will say that the free and reduced quiz forms need to be submitted by July 1st.
I'm sorry, Katie. It's I'm new to Zoom, and so I'm having a little bit of trouble, and so
Okay.
my
I knew the date. It's fine.
I'm also realizing we have a couple of old, the transportation information is not correct. John Arena is the transportation coordinator, and Wayne has retired. My apologies.
Oh, I didn't even see Wayne on there. Maybe it was the email. So John Arena is our transportation manager for CCHS. So this is his number and his email address, and look out for bus routes coming in mid-August. They will be posted then.
Okay, come on. Here we go.
All right, Mr. Miller, do you want to take this or do you want me to?
That's fine. Did we do the back to school packet? I think we missed that slide.
I think we did, and that's actually a very important one.
So I think it's back a couple, Mike.
Yeah.
All right, let's just, let's just do this.
I think it was right after the calendar. Oh, yep, there it is.
Are you guys comfortable with just this format?
Yeah.
All right, great. Go ahead, whoever's doing the back to school packet, please.
You can do it, Katie.
Okay. So our back to school packet will be posted mid-August, and you'll receive an email once it's updated. This includes all the information that you need to know for your child. So it has everything from schedules to building map to the parking map, letters about music, missing materials. It has everything that you need to know about coming back to school and about CC. So definitely be on the lookout for that. It's a really important and great go-to page for you and for your child as they transition back to school in the fall.
And in that packet, we don't know what the fall will look like in terms of COVID regulations, and so that information will be part of this packet as well, but it's simply too early to share any news of note.
One other thing I just want to talk about before Brian jumps in is the verification sheet on Aspen. I think we missed that, but you'll definitely be signing up in the Aspen portal, and it's really important that we have all updated information for your child's guardians and emergency contacts and all of that, and as well as your child's cell phone number. It's really helpful if we can, if that's listed also. Sometimes, if we need to get in touch with them, but also they can receive alerts from the school if they're listed, which is just a really quick and easy way for them to be and stay well informed about things going on. So do try to put their cell phone number if you're comfortable. Mr. Miller.
Yeah, so we have a ton of different clubs, new clubs starting every year. As Mike said before, getting involved with something is probably my biggest advice to a ninth grader, whether that be clubs or sports or theater or music. Something outside of the standard academic classroom really helps their, helps them transition to CC. And not every club requires you to be there every time. Maybe you play soccer in the fall and you do a club in the winter or something like that. So there's a lot of options.
Brian, are you comfortable just continuing on? I know you wanted a refresh. Do you want me to?
That's fine. You did it.
Okay,
It should be fine.
great.
Once you did it like this. So we don't have any required summer reading, but there are a lot of books, and Robin Cicchetti is our librarian, and they've also partnered with the Concord Public Library. There are a couple courses that might require some math, a little bit of work over the summer. And if that's the case, your teacher will be getting in touch with you, so you'll know what the homework is. Here's our ninth grade orientation program. We've got, this is, as Katie said, it's the Friday, I think it's August 27th. And this is a group of upperclassmen leaders. There's usually about 40 of them who not only do they lead orientation, but they'll serve as advisory leaders for the entire year. And then a piece about the academy. And so here's the mission of our 9th grade academy. I'm gonna just take a pause and you can all read that, I think. So this was the first year of our 9th grade academy, and it was really one of the shining stars of the year. I think that it exceeded at least my expectations. I thought that it really served as a great way for teachers and guidance counselors and special educators to get to know their 9th graders even more quickly. And here's just one quote, but there's tons of research about how important 9th grade is. And this is just one of those, right? So this academy allows for enhanced coordination between the subjects. There'll be some coordinated field trips next year. We just received a Concord Ed Fund grant. There'll be more coordinated assessments, so trying to avoid students having 5 tests on the day before vacation. There'll also be some community service projects and some real interdisciplinary learning opportunities. The example I gave to your students who attended our presentation yesterday was perhaps you're reading into thin air in English class and also studying glaciers in science class. And with that, I'm going to pass the baton to Allison.
Can I just say one thing, because I think we missed a slide, sorry, before Allison jumps in. Just in terms of back to school materials for your student, their teachers will let them know what's required for class or what they, would suggest that they have for each class. So, instead of running out and buying everything under the sun that you think they might need, I would give it the first couple of days of school where, they've been to all of their classes and their teacher, has given them their syllabus and they know what is necessary for the class. So that's just a little thing that we like to tell, uprising 9th grade parents about the transition piece. Thank you. Go ahead, Miss Dr. Nowicki.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Brian. Thanks, Mike. So welcome, everyone. As I said before, my name is Allison Nowicki. I'm the chair of the guidance department. Just wanted to give a quick overview of the guidance and counseling department. Every student in our high school is assigned to a school counselor. This usually happens over the summer, actually towards the end of the summer. So when you get your back to school packet with the schedule in it, the guidance counselor will be listed on there. Our counselors work with students in all grades. So the hope is that, and the goal is that, who you're assigned to as a 9th grader, you will stay with for all 4 years. And the guidance counselor role is fairly widespread. In general, some of like the 3 tiers that our work falls into is academic counseling. So that sort of we're thinking about, schedule changes or thinking about planning for next year, or even if a student is having some struggles in a class, we can sort of help them problem solve a little bit, think about what supports in school might be helpful for them. Another category of counseling that we do is the post-secondary planning. That is not something that we really talk about with 9th graders, but will eventually become a large discussion with students. And then we also do some social emotional problem solving counseling with students as well. But because our counselors have a caseload of students in all grades that they work with, we also have some school adjustment counselors on staff that do not have a caseload like we do, and therefore are available to meet with students one-on-one as needed. They're wonderful. They have mental health backgrounds. They're both clinicians in social work and mental health counseling. And they both are involved in different programs in the school as well. So we do have both of them on staff to help. Next slide, please. So in general, what we think about in terms of our developmental curriculum for students at the high school. So in grade 9, really what we're talking about is the transition into high school. So we will meet with our 9th graders at the beginning of the school year in September at some point to introduce ourselves. Hopefully this year it'll be about showing them where our office is, how they can sign up for a meeting with us, what our work will entail, when they can access us, how they can access us, things like that. We do a check-in with 9th graders at the end of the first quarter. So when grades are in, we will sort of go through the report card, see how things went. And at that point, we might also be talking again about sort of supports that might be available to them. And then we check in with students. It's sort of January/February. Again, that's sort of the end of the second quarter. So it's a good check-in time again, but also we're starting to think about courses for their 10th grade year. our school adjustment counselors, that's what SAC stands for, they also do a unit in the Q3 health class. They go into the health classes and they do our signs of suicide curriculum with them. In grade 10, what we are focusing on is self-exploration, really getting to know your strengths and think about, just really start to reflect a little bit on who you are and who you want to be. We have started utilizing a program called U Science. It's an online program that instead of asking students what their interests are, it actually has an interest inventory as well as a set of aptitude tests. And it really helps students to understand like where their strengths are and where they might best be put in terms of a career. We've had this in place for about, I think we've now used it 3 times, maybe 3 or 4 times. And the response we get from students is really great. Like we're really excited about this, this program. In grade 11, we are really talking about post-secondary planning, whether that is college or thinking about employment or a gap year or a PG year. There's all these different options, but that's when we start to do that planning. And then grade 12, we are talking about the transition out of high school. So the college application process, and then thinking about leaving high school and what that means for the individual. If I had one thing I could tell you as rising 9th grade parents and students who are here, my biggest piece of advice is to focus on what you can control. There are so many things that will be outside of your control in the next 4 years, but focus on what you can control, and that is your performance in the classroom. So working hard from the very beginning. Grades will matter. That doesn't mean we want you to be stressed out and spending 6 hours on homework and trying to be perfect. That's not what we're saying, but your effort matters. You don't want to take on too much. You want to have an appropriate challenge, but if you are in classes that are too hard, it's going to feel awful. You're going to be stressed out. Your mental health might suffer. It's just not going to be fun. And at the same time, thinking about time management. You don't want to take on too many activities and be over scheduled. Oftentimes I hear people ask, they say, well, what do I need to do? They're thinking about the next step. What do I need to do? What do colleges want to see me do? And there's no checklist for college admissions. There's no right path to take. Mr. Mistrillo showed that picture of the path. That might be your starting point. That might be the path you think you're on, and that path can shift, and that's okay. Getting off of that path does not mean that your life is ruined and high school is over and you're never going to go to college. So really what we want students to focus on is not a checklist of things they think they have to do, but to think about what they want to do. Really, this might be one of the last times to really think about who you want to be. Find your passion, explore new things, try new things, take risks. But at the end of the day, we as the counselors are there to support the kids, to help them through all of these pieces.
Thank you, Allison. And now Erin Pinot.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin, and I am the chair of the special education department. And so I've met with probably some of you over the course of the spring to do the transition meetings from the middle school to the high school, where we spend some time looking at your child's IEP and figuring out how your child's programming in the middle school aligns with what we provide at the high school, which I'll go over those programs in just a little bit. But just to start off, all students who have an IEP will be assigned a case manager, and like Allison just explained, guidance counselors, their assignments are made over the summer, and that person will be reaching out to you at the very start of the school year. And again, like guidance, we try our hardest to keep families and students and case managers together for their entire 4 years. Sometimes if there's some program shifts, we have to change case managers, but for the most part, they stay together. So like the slide says, we generally reach out during the first week of school, just so you know who your contact person will be. And that person will also be reaching out to your child. In most cases, they'll be the person delivering the services to your child in one of the programs that they've been assigned to. So in addition to having special educators in the department, we have a school adjustment counselor, 3 school psychologists, a transition specialist, and a speech language pathologist. And then this slide here just sort of captures what our programming looks like. So we follow a cohort model at the high school. So students are placed in their primary area of disability. So we have our LEAP program, which is for students in grades 10 through 12, who need explicit instruction in executive functioning. And our RAP program is also for students in grades 10 through 12, and that is students who need more literacy-based support. Our Bridge program is for social communication. So it encompasses some academic support as well as some social skills and social pragmatics and executive functioning support. Our Harbor program is a social emotional program. It's for students who at some point have probably been hospitalized. And it is a home base for the students throughout the day. They can attend classes and have a small environment to return to where they can receive academic as well as social emotional support. Our alternative program is a sub-separate program in the high school. It is a smaller program, and it provides academics within the program as well as social emotional support and sort of academic support as well. And then our Pathways program is for our students with severe intellectual disabilities. And similar to the alternative program, there are academic classes offered within the program. And those students also attend some general education classes. And then new to us next year will be our 9th grade academic support program. So this program, it really encompasses a majority of what occurs in RAP and LEAP, but in one space. So your student will be scheduled there 4 times a week as their special education service. The block will start off with that executive functioning coaching, and then it will, which is sort of the elements of LEAP, and then the special educator will prioritize work in your students' area goal areas and show them how to apply those skills to their academic workload. I think that's it for that slide.
Thank you very much. Erin, do you have more? I'm sorry.
Nope, I think that's everything.
Great.
I just wanted to jump in, Mike, for a second and just let everyone
Please.
know. So we do have a new special education administrator who will be starting at the high school this summer. Her name is Frances Wolf, and she is coming to us from Winchester Public Schools. So Erin is the department chair of the department, and Frances will be the special education administrator. So for those of you who have students on an IEP, you will be seeing her name and hopefully getting to meet her at back to school night. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And before we move on to the next slide, I do see that we had some additional participants come on at 7. We did send out correspondence earlier today. Athletics was starting at 6, and we were just going to begin the next part of the presentation following the athletics. However, 2 just really quick points. Number 1, this is recorded and we will share it and we will also share the slide deck. And 2, we are going to take questions at the end. We're happy to answer them. So my apologies if you didn't see the correspondence from the middle school principals. Just saying that we could start early if athletics finished early, but don't fret, we will share this information out in various forms. Thank you. Challenge success, is that Brian or Kate?
I can do it, but Allison, there's a question here about 504s. I just feel like it might tie in before we switch.
Yeah, sure. So a student who is currently on a 504 who is at Concord Middle School, that is actually, that plan is already in our Aspen system and will just transfer over right away. Students from Carlisle or from Boston that are coming with 504 plans will have to sort of manually enter those once the school year starts. We do keep in touch with those schools as well. So I'm not sure if that was the only part of the question they wanted to make sure, but if the other piece I just want to mention is We don't, I know the middle school often will review 504s every single year. We don't, but if you do want to have a review at some point during the year, just reach out and we will be happy to do so.
Thank you.
Sure. So Challenge Success is an organization out of Stanford we've been partnering with for several years now, and we will continue to partner with next year. The big piece here is that you've heard us echo is this idea of balance, that we absolutely really value academics, but we also value that your students are good people and that they are connecting with their friends and that they're connecting with their parents. And what Challenge Success believes, and we also recommend, is that in every day, every student has playtime, downtime, and family time. So those are three really important pieces of every day. On that last slide, there was also some books. A while ago, we've had Julie Lithcott-Haynes come and speak to us. There's two just really recommended reads if you're up for reading something over the summer. With regards to homework, so all of the students' homework is available in their Google Calendar. The teachers will post that in their Google Calendar and their Google Classrooms. Once a month, we have a no homework week. If there's a holiday or a long weekend in that month, it usually ties in with that. And at the end of the quarter and in vacations, we have school-wide assessment coordination. This is less necessary in the academy because those teachers are already speaking with one another so frequently. If you're looking for some more information on a particular department, you can just head to our website and look under the academics top tab, and every department there has their own website. And the next slide is all of the department leaders, chairs, points of contact for pretty much everything we could think of. If you're looking for something and can't find it, feel free to shoot me an email, but hopefully all of those names are there. And community service. So to graduate from CC, every student is required to have 40 hours of community service. From our website, you can see how to log all of those hours. And also if your student is struggling to find opportunities, there's a ton of opportunities listed there as well. We are a one-to-one school, and for the class of 2025, all incoming ninth graders will be given a school-issued laptop. That is the only choice. They will need to use the laptop that we provide, and they'll receive that in the first day of school. And we have a very active parents association. It might look a little different than what it did in middle school and elementary school, but we still really value all of the parent support. They're just coming off senior week. There's no way we could have done senior week without all of those parents. Caroline is the president, and you can reach her at that email address. And the final thing, just to sort of make you aware of, is Q5. This is a program that started a couple of years ago. We haven't been able to do it lately because of the pandemic, but it's a great way to end the school. In the school year, it's really an immersive learning experience where teachers and students are paired up in maybe somewhat non-traditional classes, maybe something in beekeeping or wilderness survival or something like that. Mike and I led one on Amazing Race a couple of years ago, and it's a really wonderful way to sort of end the year with some out of the classroom standard learning.
All right, well, that concludes the presentation. So we made pretty good time. Excuse me, again, we will share the presentation and the recording. And we have, roughly 20 minutes for questions. So feel free to use that. Brian, do you just want to quickly go over the how to do it in case folks missed at the beginning?
Yeah, definitely. The best thing for you to do is add the question in the Q&A feature. The chat is open, but the Q&A really helps us ensure that everything gets, that we answer everyone. And I'm actually going to chime in with one that I answered earlier. It was a question about if you're an 8th grader in Concord. I emailed our IT director or I texted with him while we were going. So yes, all of your old emails and your old Google Drive, if you have an @Concord PS email account, when you become @Concord Carlisle, it will all get transported over. Thanks,
So
Peter.
I'll answer the first question about graduating early, and maybe Allison, you can take the 504 question after. So is there a way a student could graduate a year early? If so, what are the requirements and how could you do that? So a year early is not possible. We do consider on a case-by-case basis a semester early. And really what we require is that you've met all the requirements outlined by the state and our school graduation requirements as well. In addition to that, it's important that we know that there's a productive plan on the horizon, unless there's an extenuating circumstance. I do know there's a student right now that is, I believe, hiking the Appalachian Trail. Is that accurate, Allison?
No, it's the Pacific Coast Trail.
Yes, the Pacific Coast. And I do recall meeting with that student, asking what the plan would be, and was pretty blown away by it. And she had met all her requirements, and so she graduated early. So it is a case-by-case basis, and oftentimes students do meet the requirements before the last semester. However, we don't want to make this a 3-year experience, so it is a case-by-case basis. Allison, do you just want to take care of the next one?
Yeah, sure. So the question is again related to 504s and about sort of who drives the process, and is it the parent's responsibility? And the one thing I would say is that it is the counselors need to be kept informed if something is not being followed. I think there is an alert in Aspen, so teachers know that a student has a 504 plan or an IEP or any other kind of plan. There's a little button on there, and they can access the 504 plan so they get a better understanding of your child's needs and what the accommodations are. And if at some point a teacher is not following the accommodations, we have to know immediately. We're not necessarily going to be able to know that unless you tell us. So I don't know that I would say that the parent drives the process and the review, but we do need to be able to have a conversation if something is not going well, or if your child is having a hard time and you want to maybe talk about adding some accommodations or changing accommodations, let's have that conversation. Absolutely.
And I would just add that the point person for that would be their school counselor, their guidance counselor.
And so Brian, I'll take the next question on homework, then maybe you can talk about the question about engineering certificate. So the question is homework normally assigned every day for all classes? The answer to that would be no. Now, homework is something we talk about a lot, and we've made some really tremendous progress in this area, and really that's just been through a lot of dialogue as a school. We do see the value in homework, but we do want to be consistent with what is the purpose of it. Giving homework for the sake of giving homework is never a sound policy. And giving too much homework is never going to be productive. We're talking about the entire high school experience and all the things that students have at their disposal. We ask them to take advantage of them. But if we're offering them, 4 hours of homework every night, those two things don't mesh. Some classes give more homework than others. There's no question about that. And even, social studies classes that are not leveled, for example, the students usually have a pretty good idea about what are some of the more rigorous classes that might require work outside of the school day more than others. But generally speaking, what we ask is no more than 25 to 30 minutes on average per class per night. Because when you do the math, you're looking at 2.5 hours of homework if everyone gave 25-30 minutes, and we don't even want that to be their experience. So is it reinforcing a concept, or maybe introducing a new concept without asking the student to struggle through it the night before? Is it a flipped classroom model? So the last thing I will say about homework is it's really important that dialogue continues. We did talk about this with students the other day with rising ninth graders, that it's not a perfect calculus with an assignment, and teachers are well aware of that. And so what might take Allison 10 minutes might take me an hour. And so it's really important that we communicate that it's becoming, if it's burdensome. Also part of this equation is to we want students to push themselves, however, not overextend and not too soon. And what I mean by that is, if every class you're being recommended for a certain level and you are overriding that process and leveling up, so to speak, it's likely to create a really difficult year that is less than fun. So for ninth graders, I would really recommend to just take it easy and to get acclimated to the school. And then once you have students have a better understanding of what the expectations are in a particular department, you know, I think they're more informed to, if they do want to override a recommendation, to do that. So a very long-winded answer, but homework is very much a work in progress at our school, and it's something we're very aware of and talk a lot about.
So I just sent a link about the engineering certificate there. It's in the bottom of our course selections page. But the engineering certificate, so there's a set of math and science courses that you're required to take. And then there's some choice, obviously there's the intro engineering courses, but then also you have a little bit of choice about some coding courses or some other art courses. But all of that information is there. So it should all lay out. There's not a ton you can do as a ninth grader. Maybe you could start to pick off some of the general technology electives and maybe one of the coding electives, but most of the other courses are for grades 10, 11, and 12.
Well, right now we either have a lull or everyone doesn't have any more questions. So
Maybe our presentation was just so good, Mike.
you know, I think that we quickly learned that I am a terrible navigator when it comes to this, and you know, hopefully it doesn't. You know, we want you to leave here feeling really great about the upcoming experience, and hopefully my mistakes don't dampen that. You know, some of that enthusiasm. I will say that it's been a great year, a long year, and you're looking at some people that are running on fumes. And anytime we're doing anything at night, it's automatically a 12-hour day. And
I was thinking this might be our last Zoom evening presentation of the year.
Yes.
I think you're right, but don't jinx it. You never know.
Fair enough.
There
We've
is a
got one in the-
question. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I was gonna say there is a question about drama and music. So we do have a fabulous theater teacher. We also have a theater class that students can take as an elective. We also have a wonderful music instructor, David Gresco, and our vocal teacher, Deb Smith. These are all electives that students can take. There's many different types of chorus and band and lots of different offerings that you can read about on our website and learn about. I will say in terms of theater, there, you know, it's also can be a club, and we always put on a really fantastic fall production as well as a spring production. Even in the time of COVID, Melissa Cherich, our theater teacher, was able to pull off some really, really great and creative performances that were safe and gave our students a creative outlet to do their thing. So if your student is interested in the arts and music, theater, please encourage them to try it out and, you know, give it a chance, because there's some really great stuff happening.
You know, I think this question dovetails nicely into making a point about how individuals rose to the occasion this year and just made things work. It would have been quite easy, and plenty of schools did it, just kind of said, you know what, we're not offering music this year, we really apologize, or we're not doing theater. And we've seen Deb Smith produce some, and her students produce some tremendous work. You know, Dave Resco, who cares deeply about the program, made the best of a really challenging year, particularly for orchestra and what was allowed indoors. And that would also extend that same to Melissa Cherish, who just did a really great job of doing the best we could with what we had at our disposal. And I will say that in terms of theater, we don't have a lot of kids that participate during the day. We do have a one class each semester. Truthfully, we would have more if more kids signed up for it. And so we may only have, you know, 10 to 15 kids in a class in a semester. However, there will be over 60 kids that will participate in a theater production. So again, after school options are abound.
And all sorts of facets in that theater production too, whether they're like on the stage, but then tons of kids get involved with tech or the pit orchestra. It's just really an inclusive environment.
Production, costume. I mean, there's really something for everyone, depending on what their interest is.
I would encourage, even for individual parents or guardians who do not have a student in, in theater or music, to come to the events. It's a very cheap ticket, and you see a pretty remarkable production.
It's a good night out.
And right now we have student artwork in the Concord Art Gallery. That might be winding down any day. I did get a chance to go last weekend, and a good opportunity to see, what our students are producing in terms of work, and some of just the 3D sculptures that have been produced are just amazing. The question, do you anticipate kids will have to wear masks in classes next year? So we are still wearing masks. Now we're just going to follow the state guidance, whatever it is. And so it's just far too early to make that prediction, and it's not one that's within our control. Well, I guess I will take this moment just to say that if nothing else, we want you to leave here knowing that we care deeply about kids and their experience at the high school. This is a very logistical discussion, but ultimately we're committed to making the best, creating the best environment for kids to really enjoy their high school experience. They will leave here more than prepared academically, and we hope that they have a great experience. We work really hard to try to foster that environment, and the kids here are truly remarkable. And we say that often, potentially to an eye roll, as often as we say it, but it's just true. The kids are just amazing. So thank you for all that you're doing at home as well. Well, I think that's going to conclude our presentation. Just under 90 minutes, so not bad. Thank you, Allison, Aaron, Brian, and Katie. And again, we will share this probably Monday as a safe bet. All right. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Take care, be well. Have a great summer. Be safe.